what's going on in between Yemen and Saudi Arabia, which is important for the next question that I'm going to ask you. The situation between Saudi Arabia and Yemen is somehow escalating. You see the fight is happening inside Yemen. Last night we've heard that at least one brigadier general, they call it Yahya Muhammad, and the other one, the Colonel Ramzi Muhammad, these two people were killed in Yemen, inside Yemen. Then you see Saudi Arabia sending ambulances to Yemen, to bring to bring those people to Saudi Arabia to do the casualties. There were many casualties, and together with the death of these two senior officials of the army. And this is what's going on inside Yemen. The fight is going on as we talk. The other part is the Yemen has attacked one of the Saudi tankers in the last 5 or 6 hours, and this is happening here while we had a military or defense pact between Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey. I want to know, what is your understanding of that pact, and what does that mean when it comes to the relationship between Saudi Arabia and Turkey, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, and for the whole region?
Well, let's unpack this a little bit, Nima, if you'll bear with me for a second or two. I just listened to Ambassador Freeman on Judge's show, and Ambassador Freeman, I think, got it pretty correct. And he's a very, very erudite diplomat with lots of experience, particularly in that region.
Right.
It's an entente at best. It's not an alliance. At best, it is an entente. Now, what we mean by that in a descriptive way for Americans and others in the world too is, for example, take Article 5 in the NATO agreement. Let's just take that apart a little bit. That article says an attack on one is an attack on all, but every member has the right to consult their decision-making processes. In the US's case, to consult the war power instrument in the Republic. I hesitate to say that these days because it isn't, the Congress, and go through its constitutional processes before it makes a decision to do what Article 5 on its surface implies, which is to come to the defense of anyone in the pact that's attacked. This is even lighter than that. And if you look at the powers that have achieved this entente, and you parse the reasons that each of them separately came into it or forged it, and realize that they're already in such agreements with certain of the states like Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, you realize what, I won't say a farce it is, but what a farce it is. It makes absolutely no sense in terms of the conditions that exist in the Gulf right now, because the real contest is between Israel and the U.S. I'm tempted to call it U.S.-Israel without even a lot, without even a space between it, and Iran. And anyone who joins that group called U.S.-Israel is going to be an enemy of Iran, at least for the moment, if not in perpetuity. And so these groupings, such as Turkey and Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and Oman and Qatar and all the rest of this gang, many of whom used to comprise something called the GCC, which was just as feckless as this one, this entente, the facts on the ground defying it almost every 24 hours are just what they are, paper. They're nothing until you consider the correlation of powers, the reason people are engaged in hot war in the region at the moment, who caused that hot war. And in this case, it's both Israel and Donald Trump. And the complicity there is just ripe for laughter, if not tears, because David Barnea, of course, was one of the biggest convincers, the head of Mossad at the time for Netanyahu and Netanyahu himself, of Donald Trump to do this, even against the counsel of some of the more astute, and I say that with tongue in cheek, members of Donald Trump's administration. This entente is feckless. It doesn't mean anything except the war is going to continue and some of these people are going to be badly beaten and maybe even destroyed, particularly when it comes to these Arab regimes whose people, if they ever felt a sliver of hope at overthrowing them, would take that sliver and do it. So, what have they achieved? They've achieved nothing but a piece of paper that in the face of reality is worthless.
Who's seeking for that, Larry? Do you think that is it Saudi Arabia asking for that? Is it something, that is in the mind of the Turkish government?
I think they're all just as desperate as Donald Trump in their own ways. Perhaps not Erdogan that desperate, but Erdogan still trying to figure out what he wants to do in the world when he grows up.
I know what he wants. Sorry for interrupting. He wants to make money.
Okay.
This is the main objective.
Join the Donald. Kushner and Witkoff and the Donald will show him how to make money. We were talking about that before, and I think Trump's doing that with JOH now. Juan, what's his name? Juan Orlando Hernandez, the president of Honduras, whom he pardoned and sent back down there to work with the CIA to make money. Wonder what he's making money off of, since he was one of the biggest drug dealers in the Caribbean before. That's what we convicted him for. This is Donald Trump getting ready possibly to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. Wait until he does that. If we think Charlie Kirk disturbed MAGA's reliability with regard to Israel, wait till he pardons Ghislaine Maxwell. That will break that reliability. But that's the guy we're dealing with now. I forgot your question.
Yeah, it was about Turkey.
Yeah.
We were mentioning the Turkey.
I think we're looking at a number of things here. You've heard about what Putin apparently did. Putin apparently, after he brought Giuliani to Moscow and treated him like a purple-clad head of state, he now has signed some kind of deal with him to allow Ukrainian Nazis to essentially be present in the area where the Russian port and airfield are in Syria, and to effect some kind of alliance between whatever that is and Giuliani and Moscow. And some people are saying, wow, Putin's surrendering to Giuliani, really the supervision with Nazis all around it from Ukraine of these facilities that Russia so treasured in the eastern end of the Mediterranean, indeed the only ones they have, to Giuliani? Is this serious? Has Putin lost his mind? And we're trying to figure out exactly why he did that. Now, my consideration is that we don't know everything that transpired between Giuliani and Putin. I'm getting to your answer, or one of the answers to your question. Neither does Erdogan. So what is happening between Russia, a dominant power par excellence now, with probably the most battle-hardened military and robust industrial base in the world, and Syria, about which Erdogan is seriously concerned? What's going on? Why is Russia making this deal with Giuliani with regard to its airfield and its port at the eastern end of the Mediterranean? So we'll all be pondering that for a little while until something happens. But I also know that Sergei Lavrov made a very dramatic statement about 96 hours ago or so, I forget now. Our patience has run out with the West. That's what he said. Our patience has run out with the West. So think about all of this against the backdrop that Putin now believes himself to be at war with NATO, which is reality. It's a fact. He is at war with NATO. He has killed NATO people inside Ukraine. He knows he's killed NATO people in Ukraine. That's how good his intelligence is. So right now, it's all constrained to the territory we know as Ukraine, sinking and subsiding as it is. But what does that mean? What does that mean in terms of the conflict in the heart of Europe? Well, it probably means that old Alexis Grinkowitz, the SHAPE commander, has really got deep concern now because Putin has just said he's at war with what he commands. And he's running out of all manner of munitions because of the stupidity of his president and commander in chief, who's wasting them all in the Persian Gulf, killing Iranians for no reason other than just killing Iranians. So all of this, as I've said so many times before, all of this is coming together. It's coming together. And at the southern end of that coming together, as it were, is Al-Ansar, the Saudis, who are going to get shellacked, and the Red Sea, a far more important commodity exchange piece of water than the Strait of Hormuz, all of which portends for Donald Trump a dramatically negative political and economic situation almost simultaneously in another 30 to 60 days.
The price of oil.
These are tempests in a teapot, but the teapot is boiling and the tea is getting very strong.
Larry, the price of oil is going up. Today it was something like around $90 per barrel. And the other point is that we had some sort of...
What's the price for helium? What's the price for urea? What's the price for other ingredients that are desperately needed out of the strait? And what's the price for the exquisite kind of oil that you take in and make diesel out of? And what's the impact on that making of diesel of the destruction of probably for some time, I'm told now, maybe a year or so before they can rebuild it, if they do rebuild it, the most sophisticated refinery in the Middle East for that product and other products too, that was owned by Saudi Arabia and the Houthis destroyed. These things are coming together. They're weaving a tapestry of disaster for both the United States, the region, and global commerce. And West Texas Intermediate and Brent crude as benchmarks in terms of the price rise and so forth are really not the essence of tracking this right now. Tracking it requires someone like Scott Besson, only he's too stupid to do it. And all the indicators that we have computers for that indicate what does this do to the supply chain, what does this do to the supply chain, what are the triple knock-on effects of this, and so forth. If you did that right now, if anybody in the government is doing that even perfunctorily, they know we're in for a true economic crisis, and we're in for it maybe sooner than anybody else thinks, unless we get some kind of settlement in this business. And does anybody think there's going to be a settlement in this business? Whether we're talking this business being Ukraine, or we're talking it being Iran, or we're talking it being the situation in that entire region between Ukraine and Chabahar. And meanwhile, we also have some real problems out there on that water for the United States Navy, significant problems. By the way, that's the same Navy with which we would fight China, or that's the same Navy plus a few more ships in the Mediterranean and elsewhere with which we would fight Russia. And we're at war with Russia. We are at war with Russia. Donald Trump may not know it, but we are. Let's see him get out of that one. He can't get himself out of the Southwest Asian war. Let's see him get out of that one.
The Russian assessment is that the United States is involved in the war in Ukraine to the neck. They say that.
They've already killed several. I saw some of the reports the other day. I can't talk about them, but they've already killed a lot of Americans, a lot of British, some Germans, others from NATO. And they know, the Russians know they're NATO. They're just inside Ukraine. But these latest strikes have been pinpoint strikes on NATO facilities inside Ukraine.
Larry, we have the new national security. The head of National Security Council in Iran was replaced by a new one. The new one was the head of IRGC during Iran-Iraq war.
Right.
Whole Iran-Iraq war.
Long time. Long time.
Long time
22
ago.
22 or something like that when he
Yeah,
started.
it was 1980. Yeah, it was in 1980. It's long time ago, but he was the head of IRGC from 1980 to 1997. For 17 years,
Yeah.
he was the head of IRGC. He has tremendous experience and he knows everybody basically. I would say he is the architect, one of the architects of the IRGC today,
Right.
because he was there since the beginning until, and he was always involved in what is important from his position. This is April this year when the ceasefire, they were talking about the ceasefire and between Iran and the United States. Here is what he said. This is just my personal opinion, he says, but I am completely against extending the ceasefire. We should sink every enemy ship in response to the blockade and not let a single one get away. And this one is the head of Supreme National Security Council today. And to my understanding, the Iranian government is doubling down. I don't see any sort of sign that they're backing down.
And according to the reports that I have been privy to, some of them classified, some of them not, you can find it in the open press if you look hard. Most people don't. You will note that for years and years and years, the Iranian oil program, the most productive of cash in Iran, we're talking big money here. We're talking big money. We're talking trillions of dollars. Much of that, a huge proportion of that, has for all of that time poured into the coffers of the IRGC. So you have this tremendous commercial, monetary, power, luxury, you name it, incentive, as well as the incentive that comes out of being Persian, Iranian, whatever, and wanting to stand up to the United States. So it's not like it's all just God and country, if you will. The IRGC, let me put it bluntly, is the most well compensated element of Iran. And when I say well compensated, I mean hugely so. Now, I'm not saying that to deride them or to derogate them. I'm saying it to just say there is a huge motivation here, in addition to the state and the protection thereof, and the people and the protection thereof, for these people to want to continue this war and to get the great Satan out of the region, because they see that as the biggest threat to their fairly comfortable position. That's not a criticism. That's just a description of reality. And Donald Trump has no idea, because he doesn't know this. He doesn't study anything except grifting himself. He doesn't study any of the history or the reasons people might be fighting or the reasons that they are resolute, dedicated, and aren't going to quit. He doesn't do that. He doesn't care. He just attacks them when he wants to attack them. That's the sadness of all of this. There is no rhyme or reason other than Israel and David Barnea and Bibi Netanyahu and their hold on Trump, whatever that hold consists of. That's the only reason we're doing this. It's sickening when you think about it. I mean, look at the number of children we've killed in Iran at a minimum. Look at the destruction we've done at a minimum. And we're doing it for no reason whatsoever of consequence.
There's some reports, Larry, I don't know what is your understanding, but there's some reports that the United States is preparing for a new round of attack on Iran. And the Iranian perception is the same way, that they're seeing that the United States is just moving around the forces, the weapons, in GCC countries. I don't know if it's going to happen this weekend or maybe later on, but maybe tomorrow. But
The only
after
way,
all,
go ahead. The only way they could change the complexion of it is to use ground forces. Because the complexion that they have on it right now, which is all air power, either sea-based or land-based, is not working and won't work. So the only way they could change the dynamic in any way, and I think it would be adversely changed for the empire, for the United States and Israel, is to use land forces. But there's another way, Nima, and I'm watching this very, very closely. I've been watching it very closely for some time, and I have some sources. There's another way, and I think we're looking at the possibility of this election in Israel, of what Netanyahu is doing to cheat on all fronts in order to ensure he stays in power. What he has probably said over the telephone to Donald Trump about, I'm going to say this, I'm going to do this, but I don't really mean it. I've got to do it for my election. Like, for example, what he's just said about Lebanon, which is to say, talks in Italy, tough. They don't mean a thing. We're going to do what we need to do in Lebanon. What he's just said about the West Bank, we're going to double down. Go ahead and do what you're doing. And what he said about Gaza, we're going to double down there too. We don't want your deal. We don't want anything to do with your deal. We're going to kill Hamas. We're going to kill them every day we can kill them. That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying inside Israel. And the Israeli Jews are responding positively to it. Now, like I said, he may be calling Trump and saying, I got to say these things. I got to say these things to be reelected. So don't be bothered by him. But what he's doing, whether he knows it or not, and I think he does, he's setting Israel at least up for the denouement, for what's got to happen. He must unseat that regime in Tehran. He must. And Donald Trump, I fear, must be seen as trying to help him. And the only way they're going to do that, Nima, the only way is with nuclear weapons.